Hey everybody, it's Chris Kerr with Reactive. You can look me up on Facebook or LinkedIn, all over the place. Obviously, our website, reactivecis.com or bsrnradio.com or any of 700 other sites we run. I'm everywhere. I'm all over the place. So getting a hold of me is not a big challenge. If you're watching this, you probably have heard of me at some point. If you haven't, somebody's referred you to it, and thank you. Thank them. Here's what I'm going to talk to you about today. I've got two things I want to talk to you about. One is I got a new book coming out. We expected it to be out this past Tuesday. It's going to come out this coming Tuesday instead. That's our first release on Tuesday, September 12th, 2018. We're going to be releasing Painless Selling, 100 Ways to 2x Your Sales Painlessly. Radically game-changing book on the whole selling situation for most companies, for most businesses, and most salespeople. About a week later, on September 19th, we're going to release an app book version of that. That's very exciting. If you don't know what an app book is, do check out what I have to say about that in other videos, or get a hold of me, and I'm more than happy to talk to you about that. Our app book is very, very exciting to us. We expect some huge things coming out of that. Huge! Yeah. And then September 26th, we get to launch the print version of the book, and that we're going to be going balls to the wall and getting that out everywhere. So you're going to see thousands and hundreds of thousands of copies of these books in every format imaginable. Fantastic deals and opportunities to get your copies with tons of bonuses and great opportunities galore. I can't wait to unleash all this stuff on you guys. Let me tell you about two things. Two things that I want to talk to you about in regards to this book and what painless selling really is all about. First off, painless selling, if you've gone through any kind of sales trainings before, I'm talking BANT and Champion and spin selling and all that kind of stuff. Two things you need to know. One, the vast majority of those came out in the 90s and early 2000s. So they're 20, 30 years old. Every CEO, every director of sales has been teaching their people these systems for literally decades. Now let me ask you the obvious question. If an ad works on you once and it's not a great result, and you see another ad of a similar style, are you going to fall for the ad of the similar style the second time? No. In other words, the customers adapt. And customers have been adapting for the same 25, 30 years that these things have been in play. I mean, if you're a CEO and you train your salespeople on how to do BANT and Champion and spin selling, and every salesperson who calls you up is using BANT, Champion, and spin selling, or the Sandler method, it doesn't matter. Take your pick. If every one of them is using the same things you've already just taught your people, you can smell it coming a mile away, right? And you know you're going to have a different response. Sometimes you go with it. Sometimes you get a giggle out of it. Hey, yeah, it's the new kid, just got their training. They're doing all the traditional stuff. And sometimes you get offended. You get offended because it's not a sincere sale. It's somebody applying techniques and strategies that everybody knows in order to manipulate you. They're not doing the selling part. They're doing the steps that somebody put them on a chart to do. And that's a very different thing. They're not there to help you. They're there to go through the motions. And so the methodologies start to break down. And they break, and they break, and they break until they're so shattered, they don't really work anymore. And if you take a look at the stats on Champion selling and spin selling and BANT and all these other methods, you'll see that over the last 30 years, all of them have dropped in effectiveness. They still work to some degree, but it's nowhere near the way it was in the 90s or the early 2000s as each of these came out. It's nowhere near as effective. So the question is, how do you generate sales in an era where there hasn't really been a whole lot of new philosophy, new strategies come out in a long time, or so the appearance is, right? And the other part that goes with that is because the strategies have been less and less effective over time, the results you get have been less and less effective. And the negatives you get have been growing more and more and more correspondingly. And the depression and all those negative consequences, the psychology of sales, has taken a big hit, and you're seeing a lot of books coming out about the impact of salespeople, of the fact that for 30 years, All the things we've told them to do to sell better and all that kind of stuff, they haven't worked as well as they're supposed to anymore. They just don't. But we're holding them to higher standards. Now, instead of 30 dials a day, I know companies who are asking for 150 dials a day. Well, if you're selling anything worth selling at that volume, it's a big enough ticket item that you're going to have a lengthy conversation at some point in that process. That conversation is going to be 25, 35, 45 minutes. Get out ye old calculator, do some math, and you're going to find that you don't have that many 45 minutes in a day to be able to do 150 of those calls. So that means the vast majority of the calls you're making are going to voicemail, going to empty dials, to people who aren't there just to make your quota. Why are you wasting your time and their time when you know that's not progressing the relationship one little bit? It doesn't help anything, right? So where the painless selling comes from is that pain of doing all this extra nonsense and getting nothing but rejection as a result of it. Yes, the law of large numbers, eventually you're going to run across somebody who says yes. Absolutely true. Law of large numbers says that will happen. But in the meantime, you're making no money. In the meantime, you're not moving anything forward. In the meantime, you're turning more people off than you're turning people on. I have a great friend of mine, Dan Levine, has an expression about sales. If you're not selling on, you're selling off. You're burning territory. You're wasting opportunities. You're destroying opportunities that could have been there if but only you handled them differently, if you only handled them better. If you're not selling on, you are selling off. That has been a truism since time immemorial. So, if that's true, and it is, then this notion of simply upping the number of dials to 50, 60, 90, 100, 150, 200, you can make it 1,000 dials a day. It won't improve the situation. It won't make it any better. You're just compounding the problem with brute force, right? That's not the solution to the problem. More and more pain just means that sooner or later your organization is going to crumple and you're going to have to make a big change. You're going to have to change to a different way of selling that matches how your customers are. Sorry, I'm very itchy nose today. To matches how your customers actually want to buy. The most successful salesperson I've ever studied was not a good salesperson at all. It's J.S. Woolworths, the founder of the Woolworths department store chain. At 32, he had 40 huge department stores all over the world in the 1800s. He had them in the UK, he had them in Canada, the US, Australia. He had them everywhere. Woolworths was a huge global brand in the 1800s, and the guy was only 32 by that point. So the journalist pulled him off to one side and said, "How did you get to be so successful at selling?" And he thought about it for a second and he said, really I'm not. I'm not a good salesperson. So I just decided to make it as easy as possible for my customers to buy from me. I want you to think about that. Why are we forcing sales so hard when that's not going to produce good customers, good customer lifetime value, good ongoing relationships with customers, good referrals? It's not going to produce any of that. It's going to get the lowest common denominator customer that is so angry with their current solution that they're willing to jump to anybody who offers it cheaper, lower quality, but whatever solves the problem and suffers the consequence of the existing group not doing their job, right? When you get so mad at somebody, you're going to hold the next one to a much higher standard for a much lower price. Is that really the customer base we're looking for? Is that really what we want? We want to be delivering even more than the last guy for a lot lower price? That doesn't sound like a good situation for the seller. That puts all the power in the buyer's hands, and it's always in the worst possible light. That doesn't make any sense, folks. So we got to do this in a different way. So I found more than 100, but in this particular book, I put in 100 ways to sell without all that pain. I'm not saying you don't do cold calls anymore, but there's a completely different way of doing this stuff where the pain goes away. Now you have opportunities to increase the value of each sale, to come up with more sales, to get your customers involved in an ongoing sale process, to increase your customer lifetime value, to make customers much happier so that they become referral engines for you. There are lots and lots of ways of being able to get a lot more sales, a lot higher dollar per customer net, and a lot happier customers without having to do all the other stuff that it just hurts your brain. Right? And I'm not saying that lightly. The studies show that a lot of salespeople are chronically depressed because the way they're forced to sell blows. And it's not very effective. It doesn't work. If you want to change how you sell, I got 100 ways to make that change happen for you. And that book's coming out on the coming Tuesday, September 12th. And I just want to make sure that that's correct. Yep, that should be Tuesday. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. No, hang on. Let me make sure this is right. That would be Wednesday, September 12th. Wednesday, September 12th. I'm sorry, it's not Tuesday. It's Wednesday, September 12th. Tuesday is September 11th. And we're going to be respectful of that. So it's going to be Wednesday, September 12th. Got that? Wednesday, September 12th. Therefore, Wednesday the 19th, Wednesday the 26th for the app book and the print book in turn. Right, so Wednesday, September 12th is our launch date. It's very complicated very quickly, right? So, granted, it gives me one more day to do even more stuff on it. So, I talked about the reason why we need a painless selling guide, why we need a different way or lots of different ways and strategies than we've had before. We need options. We need new strategies or different tactics, different ways of accomplishing what historically we just kind of brute force did, right? The old-fashioned sales brute force, RFPs, cold calls, cold emails, spam, you know, all those brute force methods. What if there are ways that don't require any of that crap? Or if it does, it's a different take on it altogether. It's a different reason for reaching out. I've got 100 different ways. Actually, I've got a lot more. This book, I squeezed in 100. We're going to do other books with other stuff later. But this book, we got 100, and I think that's going to overwhelm you on its own. I've had nothing but great conversations the last 8 days where I've been helping people with their sales models, their business models, coming up with or using examples of this painless selling approach where we have a customer who has followed the dogma of marketing and sales for the last 20, 25 years. Hasn't worked quite right. They have a different way. Now they know who their tribe is. They know who they're really talking about and who they're talking to. But sales are still nebulous or enigmatic. What I've been talking about is, well, if you change this or put together this thing, and we do it using this guy's technique or that gal's technique, and we add this to it and poof, add this magic, poof, now you've got this magic potion of all sorts of good, gooey stuff that is right up your alley, and it's almost pheromonic as an attractant to your ideal customers. You can just kind of see it wafting, and the customers start running. And it's happening for us. I mean, I just started a couple of things a little over a week ago, not meaning it for this, just because I had to do some things for my staff, because I'm onboarding a lot of staff right now. And frankly, I needed work for them to do that wasn't just my stuff. So they got a variety of it, so when they come back to my stuff, they'll do it better, as well as what they do for the other customers. And I started to apply some of these painless selling techniques. And poof, the cash register's blowing the hell up. Grateful, awesome, this is amazing. It's a different model altogether. It's related, but it's not the same. And as this happens, and the customers are getting really excited, they're getting fantastic coaching, they're getting fantastic help, and my staff is getting trained, and everything's working out really well. And I think these are customers, I'm getting the feedback, that want to jump in and do this for years to come. They want to do a lot more with this particular approach. And they're excited about it because it's exciting for their business. And it's direct results and it's easy decisions and it's painless. It's absolutely painless. So I'm going to share with you one more thing, one example of how sales can evolve really quickly, very painlessly, and it's something that I'll bet you anything you really haven't done a serious amount of thinking on. One of the odd ways that can really explode your sales quickly involves something that they've been talking about for a decade now called gamification. And the idea there is that you do something that makes working with you fun as hell. And I've heard people say, I'm a tax accountant. Exactly what's going to be fun about tax accounting? You're right, tax accounting sounds dull when you put it that way. But what if I tell you that there's a way that you can help your customers get absolute high scores in savings, credit scores, available credit, lower taxes, higher profits, better ROIs? Those are scores that matter to me a hell of a lot more than my Pinball Wizard account, right? Ding, 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 ding. Ah, I just got all these fantastic scores. You know what those scores are? That's money in my pockets. It's better than the friggin' casino. Well, how does that work? Well, there are lots and lots of ways to help businesses figure out what the hell they're screwing up, to simplify things, because we overcomplicate so much of what we do. If we simplify it, straighten it out, make it more efficient, all of a sudden, with 3 or 4 little tweaks, that thing that was producing, let's say, $50 a week profit is now producing $5,000 a week profit. Do you think I'd be excited about that? Hell yeah! Add that to my score. And now the revenue goes up. Well, with the revenue going up, you got taxes going up, right? Well, if you can show me how to save a bunch on my taxes, and you're going to do that on a cruise that's paid for out of my tax savings, and I'm going to have a paid vacation while I'm actually working a little bit to find new ways to make more money and save more money, that's exciting. Game on. And there are tons of ways of doing that. Whether it's tax accounting or show me your most boring line of business. Sewage, I don't care. There's a way to make any of that fun. And no, it may not be your expertise, but it is mine. And so if I can help you with that, you can dramatically change your revenues. Imagine as a tax accountant, on top of your regular fees, if I can show you how to do an extra $5,000 to $10,000 a year per client, and they're ecstatic about it. Not only are they ecstatic about it, they're bringing all their friends, all their friends' companies to work with you. Would that not absolutely rock your world? Would that not dramatically double your sales like that? Gamification is one of 100, well, it's actually a lot more than 100, but the 100 that we've got in here, that's one of the ways that I show you how you can dramatically change your sales. And it's like that. It's lightning how fast the implementation can take place if you open your mind up, right? If you want to sit there and say, well, how does that compare to cold calling? Really? Well, let's have that discussion. Well, let's have that discussion right now. Because I had a client that I was showing a website that I built, and it's a prospectus website. The idea behind it is we're going to be building maybe 6 to 12 of these for every city, and each one has its own little niche. It's for a particular market where the companies in it, for every client that they bring on board, they're going to make $20,000 to $60,000 a year in recurring revenue. So when they do AdSense or other advertising, they're spending a lot of money to get high up on the keyword ranking so they get better leads. They're spending a lot of money, $100, $150 per click, not per lead, per click. And the objective of these websites is to produce, 3, 5, 6, 10 of these leads a week for free. So if you're thinking about that and you just do the math and say, well, we'll do the 20,000 to keep it conservative. 20,000 times, let's say, 5 leads a week. That's $100,000 in leads every week. Right? They close one of those, that's 20 grand a week. So that's 20,000 times, let's say they take a couple of weeks off, that's 50. That's $1 million in revenue that this one website can produce for you for free. So you'd think that as a lead gen source, if I go out and I buy those leads from somebody, I'm going to pay a certain amount of money. If you're SAP or Oracle or whatnot, you're spending about $600 to $850 per lead in many cases. Maybe an appointment, maybe a lot of other things. Whatever that boils down to, you're paying $600 to $850 per lead. So if you do that math out, and you do $600 times 50 weeks, you're talking about $30,000, just so you can see, right? $30,000 in sheer value. If that's if you're crappy at your closing rates, right? $30,000. So if I'm going to offer you this opportunity for $6,500, it's a no-brainer. Absolutely no-brainer. But here's the challenge, and I'm not knocking my client for this at all. That's got nothing to do with it. My client pushed back. My client says, how do I know this is going to work? Fair question. Here's the thing. I'm selling it in advance because I want to do more of it and I just want to get on with the process. So if you want to take the advance early bird price, that's $6,500. If you don't, if you want to wait till the proof comes in, that's perfectly fair. But you know the price is going to go up. You also know I'm going to shop it around. I'm going to take a dozen of your competitors in the same city and offer them the opportunity to offer me the most money they want to pay to get $1 million in revenue or more a year from this website. And I'll be doing it with 5 to 10 leads in the bucket while this auctioning process takes place. So they can see point blank it's working. By the time the proof is there, now we've gone from a $6,500 site to a $30,000 to $70,000 site. Now, are you starting to see the problem? Everybody has these limitations in our brain. Oh, I need the proof. Where's the social proof? And there's a legitimate reason for that. There are a lot of people out there who just, they do what they do. That's great. The problem you're doing, the problem you're having, is you've already decided that if it were so easy, everybody would be doing it. That's true. Here's the problem. I don't do easy. I do the gushing edge stuff. You don't come to me for the stuff that everybody else does. You come to me because this is pushing the limits beyond what anybody thinks they can do and succeeding 82% of the time. That's my batting average. 82% of the time, when I push something through, it may take longer, it may not come out as easy as we want, but sooner or later, I get to what I said I was going to do and then some, 82.5% of the time. I have a solid track record of succeeding at doing the impossible. In fact, that is my job. As a competitive intelligence specialist, I'm there to find the things people wouldn't ordinarily find, do the projects people wouldn't ordinarily think of, to solve the problems or take advantage of the opportunities that people wouldn't ordinarily even know about or have a solution for. That is my job, is not to do the normal. It's to do the abnormal, the unusual, the unexpected, the out-of-the-park stuff. That is my job. So when you talk to me, you're not talking to IBM, you're not talking to SAP, you're not talking to Oracle, you're talking to the person who is so far ahead of that. Pick the industry. So far ahead of that they're going to catch up years later. You probably heard of this thing called big data. Well, 2 full years before big data ever really made anybody's discussion topic, I and 3 of my friends were already building big data applications. Big data applications. We had dynamic web development, we had media applications, we had sales intelligence applications, we had project management applications. We were already so far ahead. We were 2 years ahead of the brightest thinkers in the world in their expertise. That's what we're talking about. And I used to get offended that people said, oh, well, when this is proven, then I'll think about it. But I used to get offended. Now I don't. Now I understand exactly what the problem is. The problem is fear. And everybody's entitled to have whatever fear from their own experiences. That makes sense. The problem for my client today is, while I understand that, that site is going to go live next week. When it goes live next week, it's going to start collecting leads. And within the next 2 weeks, I'm going to sell it for $30,000 to $70,000. And it probably won't be to them, because the leads will be there. You know, if I got 10 leads, each lead is worth $20K, and you're going to close 2 of those, then that site, as soon as you get it, is 40 grand in your pocket. And you're going to have the site for the rest of eternity, making you that much more money. So I'm not going to be taking a $6,500, well, it didn't take you that much to build it. Yeah, right. Come on, let's get a little grown up here. And I'll be doing that over and over and over again. Site after site, city after city, country after country. Now you can get in early, you can get in late. The advantage of early adopters is your risk is so much lower because the price is so much lower. The advantage to those people who get in on the next wave, that's the difference between the gushing edge and the bleeding edge. Then you have the leading edge. Then you have industry standard. By the time it gets to industry standard, everybody else has made 90% of the profit. Think about it in terms of the IPOs, right? When Facebook first did its IPO, initial public offering, the people who invested initially became exponentially more wealthy within minutes. Because the stock price has gone way, way up, right? The people who bought at the tail end of it lost their shirts for a few weeks. Eventually it came back up. But the ones who come in at the end, it's already saturated. There's no more room to move. You saw that with Bitcoins, right? As you started in Bitcoins and it was, you know, a third of a cent got you a Bitcoin. That moved up and it moved up and eventually it went up as high as what, $16,000, $17,000, $18,000? Those people made out like kings and queens. They were internet royalty. Last I heard, things like Lamborghinis and Ferraris were sold out for the next 2 years, thanks to the people who cashed out then. Everybody else, it's now down, what, 6,400, something like that? It's dropped, it's tanked. Now, it's still way up over what it started at, but it's the people in there now who aren't making any money at it, or they're making very little money at it. That's the point. If you wait from the gushing edge to the bleeding edge to the leading edge to industry standard and beyond, you're not making the money you should have been making if you invested first round in. First through the door makes the most money. Second through the door, second most money. And you keep shrinking the value until you get to what everybody else is buying. You come to me because you want that breakthrough, that breakout, that new opportunity. You want that new opportunity, I'm the guy you talk to. In order to do that, you have to survive the fear test. You have to have the guts to try. As long as you have the guts to try, anything is possible. You can do almost anything. You can move mountains. We've got a thing that should put a whole bunch of people, 10 people, into celebrity status in precious short time. I'm not going to tell you what it is today. That's for another day. But as we launch these things, pardon me, you're going to see some people really break out and break free. You just have to have that. You have to have the guts to try. You're throwing $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 on programs that have worked for the people that they've worked for. Great. They work for the people that they work for. Nothing says it's going to work for you. In fact, statistics show that 98% of it will not work for you by feet of the fact that it worked for them first. It wasn't designed for you. It was designed for them. Let that sink in for a second. It was designed for them, not for you. But you're buying it because it worked for them. Does that make sense? Is that something that makes sense to you? I'm not saying don't buy it. It might work for you if you do exactly what they tell you to. And you do it early enough in the process that it's not saturated by everybody else. It's that fear mindset, it's that scarcity mindset. It's that, what if it doesn't work? Well, what was your answer to the last 10 things you bought that didn't work? You bought them anyway. What was your answer? Wouldn't you like to try something that's got better odds of working for you? And doing something that is strategically designed to be replicated from the get-go? There's some very interesting things that play into human psychology, and we're going to talk a lot more about that in upcoming videos. But I think you get the gist, and I'm not going to belabor the point anymore. But the reason I bring this up is because this also falls into this other thing I've been talking to you about for the last few weeks, this concept of unexpect. The problem is the fear, right? The fear is your expectation of a pending problem that is yet to materialize. Right? You have an expectation that this is likely or certain or probable to go wrong or to have a negative impact. As a result, you have fear. That's your expectation, that's your fear. But what if, and I'm just laying this out there, what if you change your expectation? What if you get rid of your expectation entirely? Have no expectation at all. And you're genuinely curious, how is this going to work? If you're genuinely curious about what could go wrong, and then what can you do about it? And you genuinely figure it out, instead of waiting on the excuse of, well, what if? What if? So what? Now what are you going to do? Because that's the only thing you have in your power in life. It's the only thing you've ever had. Change happens anyway. I can throw the same what if right back at you in a different context. What if it works and your competition starts doing it ahead of you? Because they have just a little more faith than you do in what they're able to do with it. Who cares what I'm able to do with it? What are you able to do with it? What is your competition able to do with it? Is that going to be fun? If they're doing it and you're not? Probably not. But if it's something that excites you, that, hey, wow, this is kind of like magic. Poof, poof, money, poof, revenue, poof, happy clients. Isn't that a little more exciting? To say you're on the gushing edge of something than, yeah, my competition did it, so I had to. What if? We can what if on all sides. Or we can stop the what ifs. We can stop the expectations and start saying, what am I going to do? And as soon as you start saying, what am I going to do? You have choices. You have options. You have steps you can take to make your results directly better from those choices. Being passionately curious. So what happens next? What do I do next? And what do I do next after that? Now you have specific things that you have answers to that you can go do to not only solve a problem, but to augment your chances of your opportunity working out the way you want it to. That's the power of unexpect. And that's what changes all those sales strategies of the past and turns them into new opportunities through our painless selling approaches. So that's what my spiel is for you today. Took a little longer than some other videos, but still in a reasonable period of time. Hope you got a lot out of it. Happy to do some more, and I look forward to chatting with you more over the next few days. Cheers for now. I'm Chris Kaler.